Hexen II fucking rules. Those that say otherwise are usually extremely salty because they don't like twisty puzzle gameplay, which is understandable, or don't know how to play properly, which is also understandable, as Hex II doesn't do a lot of hand-holding. But I assure you in the strongest terms possible that this game really does slap. Developed by Raven on the Quake engine and released in 1997, this game took what was great about its predecessor and dialed it way up, asking a lot more from its players than just hitting a whole bunch of switches. So much more was possible in the Quake engine, and its 3D environments are so well suited to puzzles and all kinds of mysterious mischief. The tone is on point, wearing that heavy mood that makes Hex I such a joy to play. Serpent Rider Eidolon has got the world of THYRION in his stinky clutches. He's a big red son of a bitch and doesn't care who knows it. You need to travel through 4 worlds to face him, solving puzzles and taking names. Each of the 4 worlds are guarded by a horseman of the apocalypse, which were let loose by nasty old Eidolon, famine, death, pestilence, and war. The playable classes, of which there are 4, are distinct and range from well-balanced throughout to shifting during the game to being entirely dependent on that class's 4th weapon. Very briefly, the Paladin is your fighter glow-up. His weapons are perfectly serviceable, and 3 of them can be used without mana. His Glyph of the Ancients artifact acts like a grenade, and it can stick to walls and monsters, which is awesome, and it can overcome some of his weapons' shortcomings. The Crusader is a mishmash of Hex I's Cleric and Mage. He's not as fast as the Paladin, but he has ranged weapons for his 2nd and 3rd slots, which helps immeasurably with archers and other pew-pewing bastards. His Glyph gets plopped down and then explodes like a timed mine. Good if you're being chased. The Assassin is a very interesting class, which some would say is dog shit, but it's my 2nd favorite after the Necromancer. She's the fastest, has some pretty good 2nd and 3rd weapons once you practice with them a bit, and her ultimate weapon is solid gold, especially when juiced up with a Tome of Power. Don't forget to use your tomes, kids. Her Glyph is my favorite. It's a tripwire bomb that's great for when you know a space quite well and want to save some mana. Let loose your inner Kevin McAllister. And the Necromancer, objectively the best class in the game, and I won't hear a word against him. Sure, his sickle sucks, but once he's loaded up with magic missiles and bone shards, this boy sings. I can take or leave his ultimate weapon, and his glyphs are a bit meh, but give me a tank full of green mana and I'm one happy boy. I'm not touching on the class's special abilities because I usually forget I even have them, as I'm more concerned with the weapons and artifact usage. If you're curious, they're on the wiki. But what use are weapons and artifacts and shit without something to use them on? What fiendish foes populate the haunted halls and terrible temples of Hexen II? And how best to F them in the A? Time to bring down the scalpel of knowledge on these beasts and split them open in a vile vivisection. Info is for the hard difficulty, the 3rd option, and I'm playing using the Hammer of THYRION's source port because it's awesome. Links in the description, check it out. Now, I'm going to present these beasts in order of the episodes they show up in, generally speaking, but don't forget for a moment that guys from earlier chapters will still be present in later chapters. Just wanted to make that clear. Let's dive in. These little so-and-sos are everywhere in the lands of Hex II. They're the quintessential filler baddie. Anywhere there's a space, a map designer is likely to have jammed in a few of these creepy crawlies to keep you on your toes. And though they're black, I always call them the stripy spiders because of their yellow bands, which usually make them quite easy to see. Usually. If far enough away, they'll fly at the player like a bag of dicks, dealing a nasty whack of 10 damage and probably jump scaring ya. Then they'll commence their bite attack, which involves them nibbling and never stopping. Seriously, if you don't move, it's like you've got fast monsters on or something. Each bite does about 1 to 9 damage, which sounds pretty soft, but if you don't slam a hammer down on these jerks, they can easily slap you around, especially since they often come in packs. Combat-wise, I like to resort to each class's basic weapon, which you'll be wielding when you first face them anyway. Anyway, popping a juicy squat and giving them some biffo. Even if I'm using mouse look, which makes targeting them as easy as tilting your head down, I still feel like I'm not hitting them properly, whereas the crouch puts me on a similar level to them and the weapon always connects. Like nearly all Hex II monsters, when killed, spiders leave behind a solid corpse, which will eventually evaporate, but you can easily get snagged on it and drag it around if you run into it, which is pretty funny and only slightly annoying. Avoid this embarrassing faux pas by chopping up the body. Tasty. Spiders come in large and small varieties. Big boys have 75 HP and the small have 30, and as such, the big boys will take twice as long to kill. I really like the idea of ranked nuisance enemies. It gives the impression of a monstrous ecosystem working away quietly in the dark, cobwebbed stones of innumerable castles and shit. When you kill a skull or shadow wizard, 1 to 3 of these little dudes will spring from the corpse, giving you a nasty shock just when you're busy celebrating your victory. Very rude. As an entry-level baddie, these bastards aren't too bastardly, unlike their red cousins. Oof, these guys can get nicked. Although they apparently do the same damage as black spiders and go through the same attack sequences, I always thought they had more kick, but that's probably because they're much stronger. Oh yeah, they'll also dodge your attacks, which is annoying as heck. I used to call these guys grey or brown spiders, but apparently they're called red spiders because of their underbellies. The more you know. The small ones have 75 health and the big boys have 175. Yikes! At least when you encounter these guys as common enemies, you'll have more than your first weapon, thank God! But be prepared for a drawn-out dance with these dudes. Their bite has a greater range than the black spiders, which means when you tackle the red guys, they'll probably keep biting you when you think you're safe. Very mean Raven, sad face. Use a ranged attack when possible, or oh shit, before I forget, water is deadly to all land-based monsters in Hexen II, if it's sufficiently deep enough to cover them. This means that discs of repulsion are your best friend. Don't want to waste mana or time or health dealing with a gross aminal? Easy. Just shove it into one of the many bodies of water found in the game. If we have trouble clambering out, the monsters don't stand a chance.
Seriously, this royal hot tub can fuck off!
I know I'm doing something wrong, but if I fall in, you know I'm no clipping out of that bitch. But yeah, red spiders. Try and push them into water if you can, or take them out from a distance. They're really annoying. These sweet little lamekins are totally harmless and will just mill around and often soak up whatever projectiles are shooting around, resulting in a shower of gore. Polymorphed bad guys will turn into evil sheep that will try and give you a nasty nip, so don't let them do that. Chop chop. Seen only in Black Marsh, as far as I can work out, these war machines appear to fire entirely by themselves, and they'll skewer you if you don't watch out for their massive bolts. Either smash them up or ignore them completely. I love using the one in the Barbican to smash the tower and spike the archers down below. Really good shit. Holy heck, them boys from Heretic are up to their tricks again. These red flappy dudes will be heard from some distance away, the slow beating of their wings signaling that some peanut is about to dive bomb you and put a dent in your chainmail. They're just a little bit tougher than 2 black spiders sticky taped together, and the most irritating thing about them is how they'll hover just out of reach and dodge your attacks while pelting you with fireballs. Their projectile does between 2 and 22 damage, which is quite a broad range, so you can never be quite sure if it'll be a glancing blow or a heavy hit. Their mealy scratch does a very solid 10 damage, but their aforementioned dive attack is really naughty, walloping you with 10 to 30 damage. They do give a little screech when diving, which is nice as it gives you a cue to jump out of their path. Good game design, Raven 8 and left no crumbs. 2 thumbs up. Imps will usually be encountered in groups of 2 or 3, so you'll be engaging one while others fireball you or dive at you. Try to tease them apart to split the gangbang. Pull the teeth from their swarm and you'll be home and dry. Apply a big juicy pat to your back if you can get one of them to dive straight into a water pool so they instantly die. Nice. Found only in watery passages, Hydras are fairly harmless if you're a smooth mover. They'll spit an inky ejaculation at you to obscure your vision, and they'll serve a tentacular molestation naughty enough to satisfy even the muckiest of hentai enthusiasts. Where possible, kill them quick and press on. If you don't want to tangle with them in their natural habitat, tease them out into the open and kill them from dry land, as they can't bother you out of water, suckers. Oh no, these guys. I hate these guys. They're the proverbial band-aid in the potato salad of Hexen II. They shoot really fast arrows, they appear in inconvenient places, and damn, they are numerous. So, Night Archers exhibit two main behaviors. Some will stand their ground and shoot at you, and some will slowly follow you to shoot you in the face. The following dudes. Try to get them stuck on a corner if you can. They'll often try and shoot you, but their arrows won't hit you. Hopefully. From this position of safety, you can mess them up with your basic weapons and save some mana. It's sometimes easier said than done. The stand and shoot guys are a little trickier. Their attacks are telegraphed really well, so when they're drawing back their bow, get ready to strafe the oncoming arrow. Once it's past you, dive in and give them a few hits. Then duck back and get ready for the next arrow. Rinse and repeat. In this way, you can save ammo and health. But it depends on you facing a single archer one-on-one. If there are more goat boys in the equation, I prefer to just run away, or snipe them from a distance if I can. Do be wary of the fact that archers can sometimes fire more than one arrow in a cycle, so when this happens, just dodge the lot until the attack goes back to normal. They also have a chance of firing a highly damaging red arrow instead of the usual green, so really get your strafe game on when this happens. These dudes will also try and duck your attacks, so go for a stomach shot whenever you can. Overall, they're not too awful. They've got 80 HP, so they're fairly weak, but it's the numbers you encounter them in which presents the challenge, as well as the speed of their attacks. Take each encounter slowly and plan accordingly. Or just run past them if you can and leave them choking on your dust. Also, never neglect your glyphs. If you've got them, use them. Although admittedly, they're probably best used on the Archer Lords instead. If you thought the normal archers were a bother, prepare to have your shit pushed in by the much stronger bronze variety. Yikes. These guys have 325 health, 325. More than 4 times stronger than their lesser brethren. Luckily, they're nowhere near as common. Well, not in this episode anyway. They'll always spit out red arrows at super high speed, and they'll follow your movement when aiming, meaning the wait till they fire strat is a bit useless with these dudes. In fact, facing them directly in an open area is a bit of a death sentence unless you're packing some serious heat. However, attacking them from around a corner still works well, but you'll be whacking away for ages waiting for them to go down. Failing this, try to peekaboo shoot them from cover. They can also fire an extra nasty gold arrow, but hopefully you'll be sufficiently tucked away so as to avoid witnessing the destructive power of these projectiles. Like basic archers, lords can also duck your projectile attacks, meaning you'll need to aim really well when shooting at them. Considering this, their health and their damage, save up powerful artifacts to use on them, such as the Seal of the Ovinomancer. Once polymorphed, serve up some lamb chops before they change back. And of course, your glyphs are awesome for taking big pieces out of these tanky wankers so you can chip away at them, preferably from a distance. Sporting blood red robes and a gnarly mask, or possibly that's their face, I'm not sure, skull wizards will piff bony boy projectiles at you while teleporting around the area they're fighting in, making them quite the nuisance. They're not especially tough with 150 health, but due to how they like to disappear and reappear, it can feel like fighting something as insubstantial as a shadow. Luckily, there are a few strats you can put to good use to bring them down without too much bother. First off, you can destroy the skulls that get shot at you if you're quick enough with your ranged weapons. If you've got the room to move, strafe side to side when they do their skull attack while firing at them from a distance. If they beam off, wait for their return and repeat. If you're maining a melee weapon, you'll need to be a bit more patient. Like the archers, let the wizard fire, then duck in and give him a few good wallops before getting to cover. He can deliver a shame-inducing bitch slap up close, so be careful. He can also blast you back like a disc of repulsion to stop you getting too near, so quick jabs and a hasty retreat are in order. Also, like archers, try to get them following on foot while you wait around a corner. Hopefully the corner will reduce the attacks while you beat him to a pulp. Upon death, skull wizards will evaporate, leaving behind their robes, a clutch of tiny spiders, and sometimes a tome of power, which is really nice. As always, never neglect your artifacts. If you've got glyphs, make good use of them. These living statues are awesome. They're huge, stomp around a lot quicker than you may expect, and have an absolute prawn cracker of a death animation. Woof! Having only a melee attack means you can tease and lure golems into a combat situation you feel comfortable with, if you're 1v1, obviously. I like to chip away at them and run back like a chihuahua nipping at the heels of an elephant. Watch out for their massive sledgehammer arms and their devastating slide attack. They'll seriously mess you up. When killed, they give a furious cry and fall to the ground, smashing into pieces, their magic exhausted. Fucking Kino. Don't rest on your laurels though. The upgraded versions are serious pieces of work. The Guardian of Famine. This chonky bro mini-boss can be accessed fairly early on in Black Marsh's quest lines, but you need to assemble a selection of items before you can be imbued with the power to damage this transparent terror. He's essentially a much stronger generic golem with more powerful attacks, but he looks cool. Once you've eliminated his invulnerability by acquiring the lens and stepping through a magic archway, he's very straightforward. Shoot at him until he's dead. Once again, he'll collapse in a majestic display, shattering on the ground. Neato, time to chew the fat with Famine. First of the four, Famine is as easy as you would expect. He's a gangly skeleton that rides around on a knackered nag while carrying a set of scales that wouldn't be out of place on an episode of Antiques Roadshow. Ooh! However, just because he looks like a soft boy doesn't mean his missiles don't hurt, because they do. He pelts out projectiles that will do some serious damage, 20 to 40, which also track onto you, and he can also steal your life force to heal himself with a red coiled umbilical laser, which is a bit gross. Once down to half health, he'll play coy and beam around the arena trying to evade your attacks while continuing his bombardment. Once dead, he'll freeze in place and start to glow before disappearing in a puff of light, and the text scrolls for episode 2. Basically, continually attack him as you would expect, and even involve some glyphs if you've got any left. There's a fair bit of health scattered around the arena, but still try to come well prepared and bring as much stuff as you can. His projectiles, which fire in threes, are easy to sidestep, as even though they track you, they do so in a wide arc, so they'll often just hit the wall if you're fast enough on your feet. Hopefully your mana hasn't run dry by this point, which can easily happen. Mana isn't exactly overflowing in this game, but if it has, be nimble and go at him with your basic weapons. He's got 2200 HP, so he'll take a bit of a whacking to crumble, but slap on a Tome of Power, which is a given in this fight anyway, and give him a serious poking. The only good bug is a dead bug. Scorpions are pretty cool though, with their shiny carapaces glinting in the weird light cast by the bloody sky. They reckon they're pretty hot shit though, and they'll try and evade your attacks, which is quite funny when you're in a tight corridor. Taste my magic missiles, bitch. They'll snap at you with their claws and give you a serious bop with their stingers. And they're pretty fast on their feet, which you can hear drumming on the stones as they approach, which is really quite nice. If you don't want to waste mana on them or endanger your health, use the old Mazera magic trick and boot them into lava pools with your discs of repulsion. It's amazing how effective that is for every monster in this episode. Don't sleep on the discs, kids. Same deal as the sand scorps, but tougher, shiny, and black, signaling that they ain't messing around. But luckily the gods of Hexen II smiled upon you and saw fit to create the bone shards, blessed be their name. These guys, they're legendary by now, and I get it, but there's no reason to be afraid of them. In fact, they're super easy, barely an inconvenience. It's all good, Civvy. I got you, fam. It's all good. With the now well-honed Mazera magic trick up your sleeve, tip them in the drink and listen to them impotently try and switch to their invulnerable state before they get boiled alive. The trick is knowing your environments well, and this means saving sensibly and saving at points before nasty confrontations in case you need to practice. It'll take time and practice, but I swear it's worth it. The other artifact strat to use on these boys is the seal of the Ovinomancer. It's pretty rare, but it shoots out a spray of morph shots, so if you get a stack of these guys clustered together, you'll get a whole bo peep of sheeps to slaughter. As a monster, they're a great bit of design. I love them, taking the annoying shield state from the Hex I centaurs and putting it in a deadly warrior, which can leap, roll, duck, do a shield bash, and of course, do a T-pose, salute to the sun to turn invulnerable. Love them! And with these strats, I'm sure even the most ardent were-jag hater will love them too. A were-jag by any other name, Panthers have much more health, and though they possess the same sorts of attacks, they do more damage. And they look really badass. Because of their tendency to hunt you down relentlessly, they're good candidates for traps, as are Jaguars, if you know the map layout well and the common avenues monsters will take. This goes a long way to making an assassin playthrough a bit more fun. The boss of Mazera has a bone to pick with you and isn't letting you go without a fight. The key to this arena fight is getting in the air and staying there while giving Mr. Bones a damn good licking. As a flying bad guy, death is really annoying to hit with your weapons unless you scroll your mind back to the Death Wyvern in Hex 1, and how you can make it your bitch in under 10 seconds using the Wings of Wrath. No wings in this game, but there is the Ring of Flight, which is literally the same thing. Bearing in mind that the ring does wear off eventually, grab it and leap into the action straight away. Fire your weapons right at the rump of his horse while tailing him closely, craters of might at the ready. If you swoop over the central area, a room of ammo and health will open up that you can dip into, as well as there being a few pickups scattered around the arena. Don't let up and just plaster death with your attacks, although do leave some room if you're using the meteor stuff, obviously. You may have to finish him off from the ground, but it won't take long if you're super aggressive. Also, obviously, don't forget your tomes of power exist, and use them wisely. His attacks aren't too wild. He'll shoot the red homing projectiles that Famine uses, and he'll lob a skull at you which will home in on the player. If the skull hits, a shower of bones will cascade down, dealing damage. Try to use the pillars to pop these skull attacks where you can, or just shoot them directly out of the sky. But whatever you do, make sure you keep firing ceaselessly. He'll also poop out a fireball that'll burst into a ring of flames, which you would do well to avoid. All up, he's a pretty fun boss, added on to what's probably my favourite episode. When death expires, the text once again scrolls, and we find ourselves in a land under the control of Uber Filth Wizard, Pestilence. Prepare yourself for a frosty reception as you get plopped unceremoniously in the lands of Thysis. Almost immediately, these nasty little blue-balling beasts will start piffing ice balls at you, very much like their spicy cousins. In fact, ice imps are an inverted fire imp. Actually, let me walk that back a bit. They have more health, they're immune to the Crusader's lame ice staff, and their projectile has a 10% chance of freezing its target. Pretty cool glow-up, actually. Same as the Fire Boys, let your ranged weapons sing, dodge the dive attack, and don't let them give you any lip. They's a right pest. Love these monsters. As a general rule, mummies are the best of the classic monster movie bad guys, and the Hex II developers understood the assignment. They shamble around slowly, they have Anubis heads, wield staffs that shoot naughty missiles, and they'll give you a right bonk if you get too close. But the best thing about the mummies is that you can dismember them, and they'll just keep on coming. My mind was firmly blown when I first encountered this. I thought it was the coolest shit ever. And it still gives me life. Even after you've left these bandaged beasts crawling on the floor, they'll still wriggle towards you to nibble your bum. Ancient magic keeps them rolling until you've whacked them completely and ground their remains into dust. So damn cool. These guys easily cement Episode 3 as my second favorite chapter, even considering the god-awful astrological puzzle, Blurg. These power slaves really aren't happy that you're tripping around their pyramid, stealing shit and wasting their bros. They're much tougher than normal mummies and have gold wrappings with red legs, making them easy to differentiate. High five, Raven, very nice. Lords will do a wicked mauler tordoozy and slam their staffs down, shooting out a straight line of fire, which will climb stairs and can sometimes be tricky to escape, especially if you're being bothered by some other buggers. I'd suggest popping them from afar and sensible use of your artifacts, especially glyphs. Once again, the assassin shines with her tripwire bombs. I like to leap close to the lords without being whacked, hopefully, laying down some mines in their path and then watching the fun from a distance. But you know, experiment a bit with these guys. They're an enjoyable adversary and there's lots of accommodating spaces in Thysis to try different approaches. Do bear in mind though that the Lord Flame attack cannot be repelled by discs, so don't even try. Like their stony relatives, these wide boys will give you a near-terminal fisting and squash you with their devastating slide attack, but they'll also shoot out a red projectile from the crystal in their forehead. The red laser shot moves really slowly and it'll follow you, so try to lead it into a wall by taking cover. With the weapons you have at this point, it doesn't take long to shred these dudes, and hopefully you can fell them before they pew-pew at ya. Once again, they topple forward and explode in a spray of metal pieces. Really cool. Pigman time. Our third boss rides a wild boar while toting a crossbow. Very demure, very classy. He's essentially an assassin turned horseman as, along with his crossbow, he'll lob poisonous bombs at you, which, while terribly rude, is really fun as they burst open shooting out locusts. The attacks will have a lasting damage, so make sure you've got your flasks, Icon of Defender, and Mystic Urn prepped alongside Craters of Might. His arena, which looks very much like Famine's, has a back corridor, which is nice, and you can pause there to reorder your artifacts and gather yourself. When you start whittling down his health, he'll become more erratic, sensing his death is approaching. His crossbow bolts will come thick and fast, and he'll use his oinker to ram the player, which calls for some fancy footwork. Give him everything you've got and enjoy the text screen. Man, it always feels validating to reach Pesty because it took me such a long time to get there originally, because of that bloody astrological wheel puzzle which just melted my brain. So the least said about that, the better. After a very fun introduction in a steamy bathhouse, you'll realize that Septimus is not messing around. This becomes abundantly clear when you face the Medusa. Don't you dare hold her gaze or she'll rip into you like a bag of chips with her deadly petrifying stare which does 30 damage per second. Ouch. Medusa are quick and deadly, and can be difficult to deal with because looking at her will do you serious harm, and she gobs out a putrid acid attack which will follow you like no other attack in the game, through a number of solid walls and straight into your waiting mouth. Ew. I favour two types of approach. One is very easy and does depend on you stocking up on Ovinomancer seals. Simply just polymorph her and smash her up before she changes back. Done. But it does require a lot of planning ahead and not wasting the artifacts in earlier episodes. Approach 2 is dicier and will probably require a bit more saving and loading and still a fair bit of artifact hoarding. So basically, use Discs of Repulsion to rebound her awful acid attack while pounding her mercilessly with your best weapon, health potions on standby. Easier said than done, as there's a shit ton of Archer Lords around in this episode, and boy are they tanky and annoying, and they like to involve themselves in other fights and Anyway, no doubt you'll find your own best way of dealing with the Medusa, but just hoard those polymorphs, guys. Hoard them. They make your life much easier. When jibbed, the Medusa head will keep moving around, which is delightfully creepy. Nice. They're back, and they've gone goth. Shadow Wizards are the grown-up, moody versions of the cheeky chappies we faced earlier on. Clothed in black robes, these lads have much more HP, and their skull attack will give you more of a bruise than that of their red counterparts. They can also summon black spiders to ruin your day and get in the way while you're trying to grease these dudes. Simply, I like to wait till they teleport in and then just fire constantly, destroying their skull attacks while also damaging the wizard. If he gives you the slip, just await his arrival and repeat the process. Failing that, just give him the dolly treatment and ram it down. Just when you thought the iron golems were the top of the automaton food chain, these golden boys with feet of clay have come to send you on your way. Carrying over all aspects of the other golems, bronzies are mega tough and can stomp to shake the ground, giving you a case of the dizzies. Don't get close, which goes without saying, and whack them from afar if at all possible. If the current area doesn't allow for such a move, try to lead him into an already cleared space that you feel more comfortable with. Good luck. We're all counting on you. War, what's it good for? Well, I guess he helps to give Septimus a solid send-off and offers you quite the challenging showdown. The ultimate soldier, War, will make quite the entrance and have at you with his flying axe heads, quite like the Paladin. Slip on an Icon of Defender, goes without saying, leaf through some Tomes of Power and give it some welly. When you've dusted him up a bit, he'll get really ticked off and he'll blast off with red axes, which really hurt. Do your best not to collect any of these projectiles while you circle around and treat this final horseman to a true warrior's death. Bury the body, bag the head. When he does his death glow thing, you'll be dumped back to where you started, Black Marsh, for the final showdown. Upon your return to Blackmarsh, you'll find that a heavenly host of horrendous arseholes have joined the party, fallen angels. These fierce flappers will glide about and then spray you with a magic attack from their wings, which is pretty awful. They'll also do a centaur and turn invincible for a period, but unlike Jaguars and co, they won't let you push them into lava pits, which is really unsporting. While protected, the angels will reflect your shots, making combat quite drawn out, so initiate the fight by distracting it with a force cube. The cube will double zoom about and make the angel focus on it instead, giving you the advantage to pummel it with your best weapons when it's not shielded. An improved version of the other celestial suckers, lords are stronger, meaner, and have an evil beam attack that'll make you go all weak at the knees. Instead of the Force Cube, I like to drop a Summoning Stone. The fat imp that leaps forward is actually really good at putting them down, and you can lend a hand to make the job quicker. That's not to say things will be easy, but with an imp pulling focus and muzzling the Lord to a great degree, you won't have such a hard time. The big bad, Serpent Rider number 3, and he's quite the nasty customer actually. Okay, so Big Red here has two forms, Small Bean and Grande. And as such, the approach I like to take with each stage is pretty much directly opposite to one another. So, in his first form, he'll call up a string of lightning balls that'll give you a heck of a zap. Not good. And if you get all up in his grill, he'll bounce you away. Bother. His attacks predict where you're going to be traveling quite well, so don't move too much if you can help it. That's key. Use the surrounding pillars for cover, get juiced up, and fry his ass. When you've tossed his salad, he'll have a bit of a hissy fit and draw upon the power of the Chaos Sphere to get swole. And boy, will he get swole. He'll blast you with really fast fireballs. He'll roast you with his spicy breath. He can morph you into a shape. He'll call down insta-kill lightning in the central area, so avoid this space as much as you can. And he'll regenerate with power drawn from the Chaos Sphere. So, first off, I like to take down the Chaos Sphere as quick as I can, just to get it out of the way, in between parting shots at the big boy himself. Then it's up onto the ramparts to circle around and give him a proper hiding. The Ballista is handy for a few shots, but it will get destroyed eventually, so with your artifacts mapped to appropriate keys, keep refilling your mana, call on summoned assistance, juice yourself up again, and keep pounding him. Probably because of the Quake engine and the lightning and stuff, it makes me think of the House of Thon, but, you know, not shit. When he falls, he shrinks back down and explodes in a burst of light and blood. Yet another Serpent Rider notch upon our bedpost, done and dusted, happily ever after. Oh, what a game. Man, what a game. Twisty, difficult, beautiful, irritating, satisfying. I don't know about you, but I reckon these Raven guys are unstoppable. And this Hexen property, dude, such fertile soil for all sorts of adventures and possibilities, and I'm telling you, the IP owners would have to be morons not to keep this flame alive, right? Right?
Fuck!
Thanks for watching.